Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Ham Nation is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com. This episode of Ham Nation is brought to you by ICOM and the T70A. For more information, visit icomamerica.com/hamnation. And by Audible.com. To download the free audiobook of your choice, visit audiblepodcast.com/hamnation. Over.
This is Ham Nation, episode number 58, August 1st, 2012. Lonnie W0GZV talks about Fifi. Good evening, everybody. It's a real fun week of amateur radio. And this is Ham Nation. We're going to tell you all about it. And I've got a lot of people to help us tonight. First, we'll go down and see what Gordo's got happening in Costa Mesa. How you doing, Gordo? You and Julian okay?
We are. We're doing just great. We're getting ready for the big San Bernardino Microwave Society shootout at 10 gigahertz this week, and it's actually a tune-up party. We're going to have the Zinc Air battery there we're going to talk about soon, and it's going to be a great weekend. Back to you, Bob.
Oh, that's great. And yeah, I'm excited to hear about this battery. But I don't know if we want to get it too close to this next guy. George, what do you know about these batteries? You and all your buddies down there, have you played with? You haven't blown any up, have you? It's George Thomas, everybody. Howdy.
Hi, Bob. Gordo. No, I'm not familiar with this battery, so I'm going to have to check it out, and maybe Jim and I can get one to play with over the weekend.
Okay, you and Jim. Yeah, all right. I got it. How's the studio coming, George? You getting there?
I'm getting there slowly but surely. There's still stuff to do, but there's a lot less boxes over here on the floor now, so it's coming together. And tonight, we're going to talk about grounding again. After last week, I knew some questions would be coming and some comments, so we'll have that a little later.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's great. That's great. Well, we're excited around this household because we've been keeping up with the Olympics, and I'm going to try to work in some time to play some contacts from the special events. I hope everybody is watching some of the Olympics and the great success that the USA is having. But for amateur radio, there's special events station. Gordo, have you worked any of the Olympic stations this week?
No, but I heard them, and they made it all the way to the West Coast. I was beaming up over probably the polls, and we heard 2 Oscar 0 Lima. There we go, but have not yet worked them.
All right. Yeah, there's several of them. We'll play a couple. I hope we have time after a while. And it's really exciting. George, have you worked any of the Olympic guys?
I have not. I haven't had a chance to get on the air much lately, and with the thunderstorms being so loud around here and all, it's a little bit of a problem, but perhaps I'll get on there. I've got a little while yet to make that, so it would be nice to make that contact.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're going to start the show off tonight with a continuation of what we started last week, and I'm very honored to have Lonnie Duncan with us, W0GZV. Let's see, Lonnie, how are you doing down in Texas? You doing okay?
Doing fine, Bob. I'm sorry about the quality of my picture, but don't have much bandwidth here. Over.
Okay, well, I want to turn your monitor down a little bit. You got a little bit of feedback coming back, and it's always delayed, you know. Well, what I want to do, I want to hear a little bit about what's going on with the B-29 Fifi. It's, as I understand, Lonnie, you got a picture hanging there behind you. It's the only flying B-29. Is this correct?
That is correct, Bob. Out of 4,000 that were manufactured, Fifi is the only one that flies. And in addition to that, we have two B-24s flying in the United States. One of them is the CAF, and the other's on the East Coast.
Wow. And you guys have put together the original type gear that's in that. What is that? ART-13, and what's the receiver?
The receiver is a BC-348, Bob. It's the standard receiver that was used on all the B-17s, the B-24s, B-25s, and the B-29. But unlike the earlier airplanes, the B-29 had the ART-13 aboard.
Oh, that's great. Well, let's play a little bit of a broadcast here that I was fortunate enough to catch you as you were coming from Texas to Cedar Rapids. So let's see here what we can do here. This is
B-29 Aeronautical Mobile on the way from Addison, Texas to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Well, we've been, over several months, we've been pouring World War II radios onto this B-29 bomber. BP is the only flying B-29 in existence out of 4,000 bombers that were made by Boeing during the war. And this is the only one that flies. And the Collins Radio Club in Cedar Rapids and the Collins Radio Club in Richardson, Texas have been working together to put all of this equipment on the B-29. Our latest transmitter setup, which we're using right now, is an ART-13 BC-348 receiver. We have 2 command set transmitters and 3 command set receivers. And we're as authentic as we can be. We're limited on space because we have a lot of modern Collins avionics on board. But we've managed to pour it into the space that's available. And we have an excellent 69-foot wire antenna that the Collins engineers put on the bird. It's a commercial installation, and it tunes up very well. The ART-13 could have tuned the antenna directly, but that would have been too much RF exposure in the aircraft with the modern avionics, and we couldn't do that. So we have the ART-13 going into a 50-ohm match, and then we're using a 1956 Collins designed antenna coupler to match the 69-foot antenna. Incidentally, this particular antenna coupler model was used by Arthur Collins and General Butch Griswold when they flew over the North Pole and General Griswold's DC-97 in 1956. So that isn't exactly World War II, but it has some history behind it, and it matches the antenna beautifully.
That was great. That was live on 7203, you guys. And one comment I want to make, that weird-looking picture, if you are watching the broadcast, for you podcasters, you might want to go look at some fabulous pictures that we have just shown during Lonnie's contact that he and I did. And Lonnie, tell them what that tunnel was. That tunnel, the picture that we saw, just a big long tube. What is that all about, Lonnie? How do you use that? What is that?
Well, Bob, that tunnel is the only way that the gunners in the back could get over the bomb bay area and get up into the radio room, the navigator's position, and in the cockpit. So that's a tunnel above the 28,000 pounds of bombs that the aircraft carried, and it allows the crew to go back and forth. They have to crawl through that tunnel, Bob.
That is amazing, and that's for the tail gunner. He sits in the back in little bitty space, and he sits back there with his gun. Is that correct?
Well, the guns are a little different on the B-29. On the B-24s and the B-17s, the gunners actually set in a kind of a sling and actually man the machine guns directly. The B-29 had servo-controlled guns, and they were really remotely positioned by the gunners.
That's wonderful. Well, those were some great pictures that came off the website, and we want to make sure everybody knows about the website. For all of you that are listening, you want to go look this up. Of course, it's www, but it's CAFB29B24.org. That's very simple. And that CAF, of course, is a Canadian Air Force, or Confederate Air Force. I'll get it right. Confederate Air Force. Tell us a little bit about the CAF, the Confederate Air Force. What's that all about?
Well, it used to be the Confederate Air Force, Bob, but that was not considered in recent times to be politically correct. And so it has been renamed the Commemorative Air Force. But the Commemorative Air Force has World War II planes of all descriptions, Bob. The two bombers that we have, the B-24, the B-29, lots of P-51s, and just all kinds of aircraft are a part of the Commemorative Air Force. And it is a nonprofit organization, and a lot of volunteers. For instance, all the superb mechanics that we have that maintain that beautiful B-29 are volunteers, Bob.
That's amazing. You guys do such great work. And now I understand that Fifi, the only flying B-29 that you guys have put together, and all this hard work of years and years, and the money to do that, that is on tour. And I understand that I guess it's just leaving Wisconsin now. You know where it's headed right now, where it will be going next, that somebody could go see it or perhaps get a ride on it?
Yes, I do, Bob. I have a schedule on that. She left Oshkosh over the weekend, and let me just consult this real quickly here. Going to up into Michigan, up into the Kalamazoo area, DuPage, Illinois, and then back down in your part of the country, Springfield, Bob.
Yeah, we're so excited. You're going to be here for about 3 days in the Springfield, Missouri area. So you can bet we'll be there, and we'll try to get our cameras there, and we'll have to come out and see what's going on so that the Ham Nation audience can see that.
Bob, could you throw that one picture of the plane up with the propellers not turning?
See what
yeah,
they can do. How's that? Isn't that a beautiful picture? Beautiful.
I just wanted to mention, Bob, that those propellers are 16 feet long and 7 inches wide. And each one of those engines is 2,000 horsepower. So that's a lot of power on takeoff, Bob.
Well, you know, one of the things I've never experienced this. I want to come to the Springfield airport when it's there, and I want to hear it start up and take off. That has to be an incredible thing from the ground. Now, I know it's a whole different experience inside, but to see those crank up, and I've saw it on video, but boy, I bet that is quite a thing to happen, and I'm looking forward to that, Lonnie.
Bob, you won't be disappointed. The pilots are real showmen on that. They'll rev up those engines at 2,400 RPM, 44 inches of manifold pressure, and it's an emotional experience, I'll guarantee you.
Well, Lonnie, thanks so much for your time tonight. All of us in the amateur radio community applaud what you and everyone's doing to keep this going. I know the Collins Radio company has done a lot. The Collins Collectors Association has done a lot. So we really appreciate you doing that and keeping amateur radio alive. But more than that, this is history. For so many people, they need to understand what happened in World War II and how significant that these B-29s and B-24s and 17s and all that, they really need to understand how important that was to the freedom of America. But not only that, what amateur radio's part played in keeping all of that together. I just can't imagine how that all happened. So, Lonnie, thanks a lot for joining us. And maybe we'll have you back after we get some video and stuff when it's here in Springfield. So you take care. We'll look for you on 40 meters, 7203, your crystal control there. And we'll look for you there, Lonnie, on some of these flights, and we'll be telling people where they can work you. And I thank you so much for tonight. You take care and keep it all happening.
Bob, it's been a pleasure, and I did want to make one comment. The ART-13 is not crystal controlled. It's got a very accurate permeability tuned oscillator. When it came out, Bob, we had no manufacturing crystal infrastructure in the United States at the start of the war. That's a story of its own, and not many know about it. But the ART-13 is a VFO, but a very, very accurate one. Thanks, Bob.
Well, see, there you learn things here on Ham Nation. I did not know that. I do know that they're about 70 years old, and that's really great. Well, thanks a lot, Lonnie, and we'll be looking for you on the Collins Collectors Network and wherever we may be. But when Fifi's in the air, we'll try to tune in and find you guys. Thanks for coming, Lonnie, 7-3. And I want all of you to go to I want you to all go to that website. It's really wonderful. There's a lot of history there. Read about it. And there are pages about the B-29 and, of course, what the CAF is doing and Lonnie and his group. So check it out because it's a real part of ham radio that we really admire. And I'm glad that we could have Lonnie on. That was great. But that was fun working him, I'll tell you. That was super duper. But we got to keep all this stuff going. And in today's world, you know, we have smaller and smaller radios and some of it up on mountaintops and wherever you can hike and camp and all that. But what powers them? Batteries. And it's the real dirge of what we're doing here. But Julian, you got some very special news about batteries. Is that correct?
That is correct. Julian and I had a real treat. We had one of our Ham Nation viewers say, hey, I'm working with a battery technology that's great for ham radio. Imagine instead of having to lug up to the top of a hill, a big 65-pound battery for 12 volts, imagine 27 pounds that will play 4 times as long. So let's take a look and see what Julian and I saw just the other day at a new type of battery technology. So the TWIT team, if you'll go ahead and roll the video. CQ, brand new battery technology, zinc air from Quantum Sphere. Let's take a look and see how they make this new battery technology work for us as Ham Nation, the ham radio operators. Kevin Maloney, President and CEO of Quantum Sphere. Kevin, what do we got?
So hi, Gordon. Thanks for having us today. This is our Meta portable power systems. It's based on zinc air technology. It's about a 200-year-old battery chemistry that's been around since the 1800s. And so we did not invent that chemistry. We simply developed a better engine inside for that cell and a better sort of gas and oil, if you will, to run that cell more efficiently. And so that allows us to get a lot more power per kilogram and deliver some impressive results to people that are working off the grid or in an emergency situation where they don't have access to reliable power. So Gordon, inside the portable power system here, we basically have a 7 by 8 inch by 15 inch box. We call it a sort of a personal portable power plant. You can carry it around with you, and it's got a hermetically sealed lid, so it's got an O-ring inside. And the zinc air is an interesting chemistry because you want to keep the air sealed away from the battery. As soon as you break the seal, air flows in and you have current or electricity happening. What you do with that is up to you. You can recharge your cell phone, if you will, like I've done here through the USB port. This is in a typical inverter that comes with the cell. The stack, it's 150 watts, 2 AC outlets, 110 volts, USB. You can run light at night if you want. If you're off the grid in a disaster situation, you can run light. You can, if you're in a hot environment and you want some airflow, you've got a fan you can turn on. So you're charging your fan, you're running a fan, you're charging your phone, you're running a fan, you're running lights. Most people want, obviously, to recharge or run electronic equipment. So, for example, you can just plug in, I'm going to charge my laptop here. And in emergency situations, from what we've learned, a lot of people want to obviously run or charge their electronic portable emergency communication devices. Ham radios. There's an Anderson power pole connector. You can just connect directly here, and you've got power off the grid when you want it. So this will do about 8 to 10 amps and about 13.2 volts delivered. That's closed circuit voltage. So you've got over 100 watts of power there.
And compared to a lead acid battery, how much longer will this run at, let's say, 4 to 5 amps?
Yeah, so we just did that test. The lead acid battery, let me ask our tech, ran about 50 hours, and in the lab here we ran the mid-air system about 200 hours.
Wow, a 4 times increase, huh? At half the weight?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So it's pretty important. And if you're a military guy working in a tactical situation, weight is everything. If you're packing your boat for the weekend and you're off the grid and you don't have a generator, weight is very key, and backup power is important for GPS, nav lights, satellite phones, radios, etc. The backpackers, the outdoor enthusiast, it's important. And then the first responders, weight is everything, and they want power when the grid is not available, when we're away from the outlet, to run lights and, most importantly, communication devices.
A proprietary recipe of high surface area carbon and our QSI nano manganese catalyst. The anode is it's recycled zinc powder and the electrolyte. Okay, so after we've blended our mix under some high intensity G-force, we take one last step and we actually grind it up in an espresso grinder to get it prepared one last time for our cathode machine. So it comes out, it's nicely finely ground and ready to be rolled out in our cathode machine. This is our cathode production machine. I'll take our cathode mix that we just finished blending up over there, and I'll add it to our machine where we have some fixed width rollers, which will actually take the cathode mix and it actually rolls it out into a sheet of pressed carbon and catalyst mix. Once that catalyst mix and it is rolled out into a nice sheet, I'll take it and I'll lay it on top of a nice nickel screen that we use as the current collector for the battery. It gets then rolled itself again, and the carbon gets laminated onto the nickel screen. And then there's one last step, which is coming up next, which is where we laminate a Teflon layer on top of there, which is a hydrophobic layer, which keeps water out but keeps the air moving through the gas-breathing cathode. And once that's finished, we now have a completed cathode ready to go into the battery cell. Okay, so once we have the finished gas diffusion electrode, we take it and we cut it to size so it'll actually go and fit inside. This is one of our prototype cells here, essentially. So we'll cut it to size and make sure that it's glued in here. We've got the cathode on one side, we have a separator on the other side, and this is where the actual zinc paste will go. So the anode fuel will go on this side right here. But this is the first steps for the cell right here.
Now, that zinc paste, where do you get the zinc?
It's a recycled zinc. It comes from a byproduct of steel manufacturing. So then a company that we buy it from takes the waste material and refines it and recycles it, and then that's where we buy the zinc from. So it's a recycled, clean, green zinc material that we use. So here's the finished prototype of our new Met Air cells. This is the hand-built one. This is the new designed, mass-produced cell. It's got our logo on the back. This is the holes for the air breathing part of the cell, so the air can actually get to the cathode that we just saw being produced and make the power from there. So this is our new cell here.
Here's our Ham Connection, Ham Nation viewers and listeners, Tracy, WA6ERA, that puts these packs to use, right, Tracy?
That's right. That's right. About 5 months ago, discovered here the company that was putting these together for a special application to take them to Mount Everest and Mount Vincent. And my friends that do that climb told me about this during one of our events where we were doing emergency communications up in the Big Bear area and Lake Arrowhead area. And so they loaned me one of these to try to see if that might be of interest to ham radio operators that are doing emergency communications. The no load voltage coming out here is about 21 volts. And under load, it drops down to about 19. And we need to have that voltage the way the cells are built so that we can have current that's in the range of between 8 and maybe as much as 15 amps. So what we did is we've come up with a little voltage regulator here that can handle the current. It can handle 15 amps. And it will bring us down to a fixed. Right now we have it fixed at 13.6 volts. And under load, heavy load on a radio, it drops down to about 13.5 volts. So about 1/10 of a volt drop is all under load. So this takes the 21 to 19 down to the voltage that we need for the work we want to do. This particular battery here, which weighs a little bit less than a big 35 amp hour battery, it weighs about a pound less, actually gave us, during some tests we just ran, about 200 amps out of here, amp hours out of here.
Of the 24 cells inside the battery, they weigh about 240 grams per cell. So that's a total multi-cell stack weight of about 13 pounds or so. In each cell, there's about 150 grams in anode fuel paste, the zinc and electrolyte I mentioned a moment ago. And so you get about, at 0.82 amp hours per gram of zinc, you're getting about 73.8 amp hours per cell. We have two in parallel, 12 in series in this particular size device. There's many different sizes based on the amperage, voltage, or current, desired current. And for this particular stack here, Tracy mentioned this one here was around 200 amp hours. This particular smaller version is about 132 amp hours for the entire stack. Again, about 13.2 volts closed circuit voltage. If you take the theoretical 73.8 amp hours per cell, and you times that by about 0.9, the efficiency, 90% efficiency, and you times that by about 1.1 volts under load, you get about 73 watt hours per cell. If you take that 73 times 24 cells, you get about 1,753 watt hours for the entire 24 cell stack. Again, 2 in parallel, 12 in series at 13.2 volts. So in this particular system, we have more than 300 watt hours per kilogram, the specific energy. And lead acid is typically 30 to 35. So depending on the size of the case we wrap around the stack, we're always about 8 to 10x the specific energy of lead acid. In this particular system, we're about half the weight. So we're getting 4x delivered capacity at half the weight, which is pretty impressive. The first responders we spoke to were very impressed about the long shelf life, the safety, and the ready and availability and the reliability of the power system when it's needed.
So Kevin, is this expensive technology?
Nothing's cheap about portable power, but we do deliver a lot of safety, security, and peace of mind. So with that in mind, we're targeting on these pre-production units about $400 for the entire system. Obviously, the bigger systems with more amperage or voltage requirements would be a little costlier, but that basically equates to about 120 per kilowatt hour, which is quite compelling to the users that are off the grid.
Wow, pretty exciting technology. I think you'll all agree. And we're going to put it to use this coming Saturday at the 10 gigahertz and higher tune-up by the San Bernardino Microwave Society. We'll be running our own rig off of one of these batteries. We're going to be using the controller, though, to keep that voltage right at 13 volts, operating SSB and CW on 10,000 megs. So we'll give you more information about that. Again, the battery's not rechargeable, but you can dispose of it right in your home trash. It is friendly eco, absolutely. And again, you can replace the battery packs on the inside for less money than a brand new one. So we're excited about this. And Bob, I'll let you know how it worked out this coming weekend. Back to you, Bob.
That sounds great. Hey, you know what? I was just thinking about, we could take one of those batteries and take this Viasat satellite system that is powering my station. I wouldn't be able to be on the internet here in this second home in Springfield out here in the country. No way. There's no internet. But Viasat is affording us this 2.5 to 3 megs up and I don't know what, 15 down, whatever. And we could take that on the mountaintop and we'd be on the internet too. Is that right?
Yeah, that certainly is, Bob. And I realize when I heard it was not rechargeable, I sort of flinched. But once I got to thinking about some of the specialized applications, such as the one going on right now with Arctic Row, where they're using these batteries as a backup because their wind and some of their water maker equipment might not run regularly on normal lead acid batteries. Wow, we see a lot of uses for a first-time battery that stays good for 5 years as long as you don't pull the seal, keeping the air out as the energizer to that battery.
Yeah, a lot of possibilities. Take your Viasat and go on a mountaintop. Well, we have a very special introduction tonight because we're very, very pleased and happy to have some of our advertisers come aboard. And who better to do that but Leo Laporte, W6TWT. Take it away, Leo.
Hey, Bob and Gordo, don't let me interrupt. Okay, let me interrupt just for a second. First of all, love Ham Nation, and I do thank you guys for turning me into a ham. It's been really great to be part of this wonderful community. And I remember, Gordo, when I first started thinking about doing this, actually, I asked both of you guys. I said, what should I get? And Gordo said, get a handy talkie. You want dual band FM. It's an easy way to start in ham, an inexpensive way, but it really gives you a whole lot. Of course, I went out and bought an ICOM. In fact, ICOM's now equipped the whole studio. We've got ICOM transceivers for high frequency. We've got that satellite bounce. And now there's a new ICOM. We want to welcome them finally. We're so glad to have ICOM as a sponsor for Ham Nation. And they want to talk about their new T70A. It's a dual-band portable radio that focuses on basic features in a compact form and, of course, a great price. And loud audio, that's one of the selling points on this one. Sometimes with these handy talkies, you don't get a lot of output. 700 milliwatts of loud audio. It uses a bridge-tied load amp that literally doubles the audio output. So by doubling the voltage delivered to the speaker, you're going to get very clear, loud audio. That's great. Look there's the Pi logo that Bob taught me so well. I think in Gordo too. Power equals current times voltage, right? Great battery life on this. It's a 264, the BP264 nickel metal hydride battery with 10 hours on a single charge. That's fantastic. And you can get the optional lithium ion, go to 13.5 hours. It does have a DC jack, great for your car. Very easy programming, 302 channels with alphanumerics, so you can have memory names and the ability to group them into 26 memory banks. There's a weather channel, weather alert channel, 3 levels of RF power. You'll love having this next field day. Dual band, FM, rugged mil-spec production, and internal Vox features, so it's great for hands-free with the optional headset and plug-in cable. Look, you're going to love this beautiful LCD. Take a look. It's brand new from ICOM. They make such great gear. I'm so proud to be all ICOM here in the studio. All ICOM, including my ICOM handy talkie. The brand new T70A dual band FM transceiver. You find out more by visiting ICOM America. I'm so used to saying ICOM, ICOM, America.com/HamNation. You'll get more information on the T70A, and you can register for a weekly drawing, too. That's ICOM, America.com/HamNation. I am so glad to welcome ICOM to the Twit family of advertisers, because I know what great gear they make. I'm so happy with my ICOM radios. You will be, too. And it's great if you've got a new ham or you're getting somebody started in the family. This is a great way to start them in this wonderful hobby. ICOMAmerica.com/HamNation. You agree? Bob and Gordo, back to you. Over. Oh, we don't say over.
Absolutely.
73?
Absolutely. Hey, I can use one of those, Gordo, when I go to some of these shows, and they're about 126 dB coming off the stacks. You can't hear anything, but you probably could hear the speaker in that new handy talkie. Is that right, Gordo?
Oh, it sure is correct, Bob. In fact, last night I was working a big event, public service event, using ham radio, and I was just holding the radio because it was so noisy, yet I could tell when it was trying to make a call out because I could feel the audio coming out of the speaker. So it's a pretty incredible radio. Sells for a little over $200, 300 plus channels. Wow, what a piece of equipment.
All right, that's cool. And we welcome ICOM to the family here on Ham Nation. Well, we need to find out what's been going on around us, and who better but Newsline and the great, of course, Newsline interpreter, as I call him, Don Wilbanks. Don, take it away. Let's see what's going on.
From Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 1824, here are the Ham Nation headlines for Tuesday, August 1st, 2012. The International Amateur Radio Union could have 2 new members before year's end. The Federation of Radio Sport of Azerbaijan, or FRSA, and the St. Vincent and Grenadine Amateur Radio Club are being proposed for membership in the International Amateur Radio Union. The FRSA is based in Baku. So far, it has 50 members. The St. Vincent and Grenadine Amateur Radio Club has 21 members. Both have made their proposals through IARU Region 2 for membership. The International Amateur Radio Union calendar notes that the groups have declared that they can satisfy the requirements of the IARU Constitution and bylaws. As such, their proposed membership has been put up to the vote by all International Amateur Radio Union member societies, who have until November 1st to cast a ballot. Meantime, 2 International Amateur Radio Union member certifications have been rescinded. Despite a request, no proof has been provided that the former PNGARS of Papua New Guinea and BARTS in Burma or Myanmar still exists and have been withdrawn from membership. It's Yakety Yak time on the 70-centimeter band near San Diego, California. This is a new radio system takes to the air on a military base. Southern California's Fallbrook Amateur Radio Club reports that it recently began receiving a random ticking interference superimposed over weak incoming signals on its 440.600 megahertz repeater input channel. Several members have tentatively located the signal as originating at the nearby Marine Corps Camp Pendleton. It now appears as if the base has deployed a number of enhanced position location reporting system radios, or EPLRS devices, that use the entire 420 to 450 megahertz band in a spread spectrum mode. As hams share the 420 to 450 band with the U.S. government, and the government has priority, it's likely that the Fallbrook ham community will have to live with the problem until such a time as the devices are turned off, if that ever occurs. Hams are secondary users in the 420 to 450 megahertz band and must accept any and all interference from those designated as primary users. Also, the amateur community must not in any way interfere with the operation of those assigned as primary users, in this case, the United States military. It's believed that at least 24 EPLRS systems are slated for deployment or are already deployed across the continental United States, as well as in Alaska and on Hawaii. The price of a vanity ham radio call sign is going up. July 20th, the FCC announced that the cost of a set of amateur radio vanity call letters will increase 80 cents to $15 for a 10-year license term. That works out to 8 cents a year for anyone applying for or renewing a vanity ham radio call. The new fee goes into effect 30 days after the notice of the increase is published in the Federal Register, and as we go to air, that publication is still pending. NASA astronaut Joe Akaba, KE-5DAR, will play disc jockey in space on Friday, August 3rd. That's when he'll do a live remote from the International Space Station as part of a 2-hour music and talk show to be streamed over internet station Third Rock Radio. Third Rock Radio is calling this outing The Joe Show. It describes it as a blend of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics and art. For those not aware, Third Rock Radio is a project of Houston, Texas radio veterans. It's produced under a NASA Space Act agreement with RFC Media. The Joe Show is mainly aimed at younger Americans. You can hear it as an audio stream at thirdrockradio.net with Akaba's appearance beginning at 4 p.m. Eastern on Friday, August 3rd. And finally, this note to our listeners who tune into Amateur Radio Newsline using our podcast audio feature. We've updated the links to the iTunes and RSS feed for our weekly report, and you'll need to resubscribe in your podcast listening device using the new links available at www.arnewsline.org in the right column. Simply click on the link that affects you, perform the resubscription process as required by each service, and you're good to go. That's all from Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news, brought to you each and every week for 35 years and counting at www.arnewsline.org. I'm Don Wilbanks, AE5DW73. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation.
Always great to hear from you, Don. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week live here, and I really appreciate you doing that. Also, you can watch every one of the Ham Nation videos as well as on podcast. And I always tell a lot of people, how do you get there? It's real simple. You go to a search engine, Google or what have you, and put Ham Nation into Google. It'll come up to the page, and you can go from there to the podcast, to the video cast, as well as the iTunes. So do you ever think amateur radio would be on iTunes? How cool is that? So that's something that you need to do, is go back and look at the replays, because then you get to hear Joe Walsh play the theme. And we don't do that in the live session, but you sure can hear him on all the replays. So you want to go to all the replays. You want to watch us on the replays. George, how are you doing down there? How's the new station coming? We about ready to start seeing some other new things coming from you down there?
We should be seeing some new things soon, Bob. It's coming along well. I finally got most of the molding up in here. Still sorting out things, but the rack is full. All the radios are working now, so I'm mighty proud of that. I've got the dual band VHF, UHF. I've got the D-Star. I've got the HF. The only thing that's not on yet is the Echo Link node, and that's because the repeater is down temporarily. So I hope to have that up soon. I noticed people in the chat room were concerned about the temperature in the shack here. You know, Alex asked me to turn off the air conditioner before the show, but I snuck it back on while I wasn't on. So it's nice and comfortable in here now. You know, last week I opened a can of worms when I mentioned grounding, Bob.
You can do that very easily, and you can cause a lot of interesting arguments about grounding. Let's see what you got to answer some of the questions.
Okay. Yeah, we talk about a little more this week, and plus I'm going to tell you about a couple of exciting things we've got coming up here on Smoke and Solder in the near future. So, Alex, if you'll roll the video there. If you remember last week on Smoke and Solder, I made a comment about asking hams about their grounds. Now, if you ask 100 different hams, what's a good ground system? Of course, you'll get 100 different answers. I heard from those 100 hams. Some of them agreed with me, thought it was a good system. A lot didn't. And we're going to take a look at a couple of the letters that I got here. The first one came from an electrician, and he said it's never a good idea to solder any part of your ground system because the intense heat from a lightning strike can cause it to melt the solder. Well, that's probably true. He said it needs to be mechanically fastened or CAD weld. CAD welding is an interesting process, so I looked on YouTube to find some videos that would kind of show us what it's like. This is probably the cheapest method, using a CAD weld one-shot, although it's not really that cheap. It has a little mold that holds the powder material that melts, and you install it on top of your ground rod and then run your ground wire into it. Well, my problem was I had a ground strap, and I didn't really see any of these one-shots that would work with that. Once it's in place, you ignite the material, and it quickly melts and fuses and gives you a good solid ground bond. And he also said it's not a good idea to have two separate grounds. He saw where my ground came in and was connected to the rack, and he said connecting your ground to the chassis of the equipment is a bad idea because you've also got a ground coming in from the electrical system, and you could have ground loops in that case. Well, you could have ground loops, but I don't. We've been connecting chassis to ground for years in broadcasting, and there's ways to work around ground loops. He's saying that you need one ground system, and that's got your electrical, your RF, and everything all in one. Now, a lot of hams believe that, and a lot argue with that. I'm not going to mediate among them to determine who's right and who's not. I also got another letter here, and this came from Scott K0MD, and Scott says that his main tower is 100 foot, and he's got Yagis on it, and it's 325 feet from the house. And a local ham suggested to him that he run a ground wire between the tower and his house. He says the tower has 6 8-foot ground rods, and they're all connected together with number 4 copper wire. And he says he did not CAD weld them, but that the ground wires are snugly connected. He's wondering if he should spend an extra $400 to run that 325 feet of copper wire from the tower to the house, and if that's going to make any difference. And my answer to him was, Scott, it sounds like a good idea. I'm not sure it's practical. 325 feet is a lot of wire, and it's not going to be at equal ground potential at the end of 325 feet anyway. As far as my ground system here, I chose to use silver solder on it, and I'll probably go back now and put a clamp around that as well. That ground is right here at the shack, which is about 60 or 70 feet from the tower, and I have my tower grounded, and it's all secured with clamps, and I suspect if we get a lightning strike here, it's more than likely going to come in on the tower and go to ground there. Here at the shack, my HF antennas are located near it, but none of them are on the tower itself. They're all suspended between trees and poles here. So this ground that I put in is acting as my RF ground and also my equipment ground to keep RFI out of the gear. I think if the solder melts, I'm going to have a lot bigger problem than fixing that ground rod. So Scott, I'm not sure if it's necessary to add that ground wire to your existing system for lightning protection. I do think, though, that if you put it in there, it might help your HF propagation a little bit since it's more copper in the ground. Now I'm going to talk about a couple of upcoming things that we've got going on here for Smoke and Solder. Number one, we talked last week about the Raspberry Pi. Actually, that was a couple of weeks ago. This is a great little device. I've done a little research. I mentioned that I wanted to use it for Echolink. Well, there's no Echolink software currently available for it. However, there is a project out there for Linux that can be recompiled and made to work with the Raspberry Pi here. So I'm going to look into that when I get a chance, if somebody doesn't beat me to it. And I hope they do, because it'll be a little work. Also, I've got a project coming up here that I wanted to mention to everyone in case you wanted to get one yourself and follow along as we build it. This will be a few weeks away, so you've got time to order one if you would like. And this is the Open Beacon from etherkit.com. This is a 30-meter beacon, and it works on 10.140 megahertz. Let's talk a little bit about what this Open Beacon does. The Open Beacon is an open-source crystal control QRP beacon kit, and it supports a variety of slow-speed modes, including QRSS, DFCW, and sequential multi-tone Hellscriber. It's configured by USB port, so there's no jumpers to set, and you can easily adjust all the operating parameters from the command line. Once you've got it configured, you can disconnect the PC, and the Open Beacon can work standalone. It only has 300 milliwatts of output power, and that's when you supply it with 13.7 volts of DC power, but it will operate from 5 volts up to 14 volts. We're going to be building this in the future here on Smoke and Solder, I just wanted to give you a heads up so that you had the chance to get one if you'd like and follow along at home. And there's one more project that I'm talking with the manufacturer about right now, and that's a Balun kit. You know, we use Baluns quite often on HF antennas. There's a variety of them, but probably the most popular is a 41 Balun. And I'm looking for a manufacturer right now who'll build that 41 Balun kit for us, and we'll build that together here on Smoke and Solder in the future. I'll let you know how that progresses and where you can order it and how much it'll cost when the time gets here. But I think that'll be a great little kit for us all to get together and build. So there you go. That's what's been going on around here this week, Bob, answering those emails about ground systems. And I hope I cleared it up a little bit. That's not my primary lightning ground there. That one's at the tower. This is a ground mainly for my RF systems here. And, you know, some people say they should be tied together, and some say they should be two separate systems. Well, there are two separate systems here. And I've measured and checked for ground loops, and I don't have any at this location. That doesn't mean that you wouldn't end up with some yourself if you did it this way at your location. That Balun kit I was just talking about, I spoke with Richard today at MFJ Enterprises, and they've agreed to produce that kit for us. And the part number is going to be an MFJ 913K. And I'll let you know more in the future as to when that is actually available and what the price will be and where you can order it from if you'd like to follow along at home and build that. So that's all coming up in the future there. Bob, anything to add about that grounding?
We don't have 5 hours. Oh, what a subject. I would love to put in my cent and a half or 2 cents, and we will do that. Maybe we'll get old WB2WIK back. If you want to read a great article, you go look it up. EHAM. Search an article for grounding. He had probably the most compelling article about grounding I've ever read, and he's right. So check it out. Yeah, we'll have to do that. We'll get into it more. There's so much we can talk about, and so little time sometimes, George, but that was great. It was really super, and we look forward to seeing the continuation of the station there. Did you have some contest stuff going on tonight?
I sure do, Bob. And yeah, if you can do it in 5 hours, then you're better at it than me and can explain it a lot faster. I did want to say, though, I do have one of these, a ground clamp, and I'm going to put that around that ground rod and strap out there soon. You know, last week I showed you this little MFJ AC voltage monitor. It's the MFJ 850B. We're going to give that away this week. And the question that I posed to our audience was, what does the RG stand for in coax designations? And we got the correct answer from David Goldenberg, KJ6MCQ, and he says that it stands for radio guide or radio grade. Congratulations, David. You won the little MFJ AC line voltage monitor here. This is a great little device. I've been using one here and have really enjoyed it. We'll be shipping that out to you this week. And for next week, we're going to give another copy of Jerry Buston's Constructing HF Wire Antennas book. A great book, and it's got some grounding tips in there, too. So don't just take it from me. Look in there, and you can get even more. If you'd like to win that, well, answer this question. Can you have too much ground system in the ground? Just send your answer to me at hamnationcontest@gmail.com, and you could be the lucky winner of that book next week. So that's it for Smoke and Solder this week, and next week, I'm not sure what we'll be doing.
Well, I'm sure you'll have time to find out, and I really liked the green screen this week behind you. That was pretty cool. That was cool. Well, we're going to switch back to Petaluma because we got W6TWT has another little announcement for us. Take it away, Leo.
Hey, Bob and Gordo, let me interrupt just for a moment to talk about, I don't have to tell you, our favorite sponsor, Audible.com. Look, if you're a ham, if you're, listening to podcasts, if you're the kind of person who likes to listen, Audible is such a great resource. It's the best audio bookstore in the world. I know you probably see sometimes when you go to the bookstore, you see the cassettes and stuff. This is so much better. First of all, 100,000 plus titles. You get them instantly. You download it. You could listen on your computer, of course, but you can also listen on an iPhone, an iPad, an iPod, an Android phone, Windows phones. It plays on almost everything. They've got Audible software for iOS and Android that makes it really easy to see your entire library. I have over 500 books in my Audible library, and I can listen to any of them at any time. Now, we've got a special deal for Ham Nation listeners, a free book. What you'll do is you'll go to audiblepodcast.com/hamnation, and you're going to sign up for the gold account. That's a subscription. It's what I use. Once a month, you get a fresh book. It's wonderful. It's a savings, but you also get your first month free, your first book free. You can cancel at any time, pay nothing, but that book is yours forever. And I said books, but, I'm thinking, what would a ham crowd like? And I'm thinking, old-time radio is also there. This is one you could get for free. The Golden Age of Radio, radio's all-time greatest shows. There's also the Alfred Hitchcock Radio Movies Collection, dramatized movies. That sounds really good. Loretta Young, Joseph Cotton. Wait a minute, we got to listen to a little bit of this. Alfred Hitchcock.
She's been beautiful, very beautiful. Maxim still loved her. That's all I could think about for days. And then women like, I thought...
This must be an old-time radio show. How about this? This is one, I just love this. Listen to Groucho Marx. This is the Golden Age of Radio.
Now, what's the favorite dish you make at your fountain, Valerie?
It's the ice cream banquet. It's
the
60
ice
cents.
cream banquet?
Mm-hmm. We have...
how do you make it?
We have a scoop of chocolate, scoop of vanilla, scoop of strawberry, scoop of coffee, scoop of peach, scoop of banana nut, scoop of lemon stick, fresh peaches, pineapples, strawberries, raspberries, marshmallow, cold fudge, real whipped cream, pecans, almonds, walnuts, and a cherry.
And how much extra is the stomach pump?
I love it. I tell you what, listening is great. It's a great way to read when you don't have time to read, whether you have a commute. I use it at the gym. I love it when I walk the dog, when I do the housework. You will read more. You'll enjoy the reading you do. Audible.com. You got to try this. Go to audiblepodcast.com/hamnation. Get your first book free. You can thank me later. Now, let's get back to Ham Nation with Bob, Gordo, and the gang.
All right, we're going to have to get Gordo's books on Audible. Have you done anything like that, Gordo? You made any entrance into that yet? You thought about that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Leo's got me excited about that one.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Well, listen, before we go up to Northern Illinois to get a couple minutes about the chat room, what's going on with Cheryl, I want to tell everybody you should be listening for the Olympic station. It's very timely. And I got a little piece here, and take a listen. I got a little instruction for you. Pay attention here. Notice that when they have these big pile-ups, who's getting in? And it's not always the guy with the big signal. Usually some of those guys are so bassy and muffled you can't understand what they're saying. It's always the guy that's got very articulate audio. And what's very neat about what you're going to hear is the second exchange with the guy with very low power beat out all the big dogs because his audio was right. And it was really cool. It was a nice exchange. And this is from one of the other Olympic stations. So roller, Alex, let's see what we got coming from the UK.
Call stateside, North America, Mexico.
Kilo Bravo 1, Echo Yankee 3, Juliet Lima. Alpha Charlie 2, Juliet Bravo. Alpha 3, Romeo Kilo Oscar.
Kilo 5, November Delta X-ray. A very good evening, Randy, and thanks very much for the call. You're 5 and 9, 59, okay? Okay, thank you for taking the call. You're 5-9 into the state of Arkansas, and thank you for bringing the Olympics, over. Okay, thank you very much, Randy, and you're doing rather well over here. Your boys and girls are performing nicely, and it's great to see it. And there's a lot of people here from your side waving US flags, Randy. It's like being over there, over. All right, sounds good. Thanks again, 73, Cachefly NDX. Thank you, Randy, 73. QRZ again, please, guys. Mexico Olympic 5, Lima, Romeo 2, Hotel.
Kilo 3, Juliet Lima.
Who's the Kilo Charlie 3? I'm going deaf. QRZ, please. Mexico Olympic 5. Lima Romeo Oscar.
Kilo 3, America 2. America 2 calling.
Okay, this is the WB5, Victor.
Roger, thank you for taking my call. Nice Whiskey, Bravo 5. Chris, we're 5 and 9 in the Mississippi. Good job on that end, over.
Okay, thank you very much. And you're 5 and 6 here, 56. But I tend to leave long pauses to give guys with a slightly weaker signal a chance. But nice to work you, and thank you very much, over.
Enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, Roger, Roger, it certainly is. Yes, thank you very much. 73 to you, and catch you soon. And enjoy the games, please. QRZ, Mexico Ocean 5, London, Radio Ocean.
Kilo 3, X-ray 1 Charlie. America.
The other thing that I noted about that is how impatient some are, and don't they have any manners? They step all over the station calling, and it just a lot of etiquette has to go into operating HF. But the fellow that won out at the end had a dipole, so hey, I worked him with a dipole. So don't be afraid to jump on these pileups with a dipole. You don't have to have monster antennas. Sometimes it's very rewarding, and it works well. So give it a try. You saw Leo build a dipole on this program some issues ago, and if you haven't seen that issue, you need to go back and look at those segments of when we actually built that dipole. And I hasten you to do this. Don't be afraid. You do not need a big kilowatt. Just proved it to you, and that's really great stuff. So let's move up to Northern Illinois. We're getting short on time, but that's okay. What's happening up there, Cheryl? You doing okay?
Hi, Bob. How are you? I'm doing just great. Hi, Gordo. Hi, Don. And hi, George, and everybody in the chat room. Hello to you guys. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Just have a question I'd like to get in here. It seems like it's a real good one here from KC2ZUF. He asked, he has been wondering if there's any decent hands-free operations for a mobile rig. Does anyone have an answer for that?
I've had an answer for a long time. Go ahead, Gordo.
Oh, that's okay. No, I know that I think is a Yaesu has a Bluetooth headset, as I recall. Julian's going, I think so. So check out the Bluetooth as a way of getting, and Alinco, I think, also has it. So there's a couple, and possibly ICOM and Kenwood as well. But I know there is Bluetooth.
Thank you, Gordo. That's great. Hey. And by chance, maybe George might be able to ask this. What is the difference between a dipole and a double bazooka antenna? That comes to us from KB3YPL.
Well, I'm going to turn that over to Bob here, since he's the expert on those coaxial dipoles.
By all means.
Well, it's very simple. It's a dipole. It's a dipole. But the difference is the coaxial dipole that was designed in 1938 by MIT. Go check it out. To do a Google search on the MIT coaxial dipole. It's broadband. You don't have to have a tuner. It'll operate throughout the entire 75-meter band, the entire 40-meter band. Now, these are separate. That's the only problem about this particular antenna. And it's not a problem. It's a situation. They're single-band antennas, and you need to have one on each band. I have seven of them out here in the meadow. And they're wonderful because you don't need a tuner and waste your power. A tuner does not make that antenna work better. It makes the antenna, the transmitter be fooled that the antenna is resonant throughout the whole band, and most of them aren't. But the coaxial dipole that MIT designed is a broadband antenna. It's very special the way it's made. Real simple. It's easy to build. Then you can be covering all of the bands, low SWR on each end, no tuner. So your transmitter is getting all of its power right to the antenna. And it's balanced. Hello. We'll talk about that again soon. But yeah, check it out. MIT, they do a great job on all these different sites I've seen. And in the IAC is a company that commercially makes them, and they have a very interesting center insulator. That's the weakest part of that antenna, and they have a molded center insulator. I'm coming up with some video and stuff when I get some time here. I want to put a thing together about what's going on out behind me in this 5 acres, and it's really kind of fun, and it'll be good stuff for you. So that's it, Cheryl. It's just a broadband antenna that you don't need a tuner like you do with a dipole.
Thanks, Bob. That sounds great. You definitely have that antenna farm going out behind there. Great. And my antenna keeps my trees from separating. I don't know about you, but that's the mystery antenna that I use with the 4-to-1 balun that George was talking about. So that's really great. And there's one other quick one from Astronaut 2K05. He says, what is a UNUN, UNUN, and how is it different from a balun?
George, you know what that is?
Is that real? UNUN. How is that different from a balun? Have you heard of that, or is somebody pulling my leg here?
No, that's an UNUN, and what that is an unbalanced to unbalanced matching device, where a balun is a balanced to unbalanced matching device.
UNUN. Okay. Well, he thought he was going to get you. He says to stump the guys. That was how he put it. So you get the bonus prize there, George. And a lot of times the chat room folks want me to say this, and they keep asking, what's the contest email address? And I know that one. It's hamnationcontest@gmail.com. So don't forget to get your answers in there to George so you could possibly win some of his little things he's given away there, which is great. Thanks, George. Thanks, Bob and Gordo and everyone. And catch you next time down the band and on Ham Nation. Come back and see us. Nice to have you here. Take care.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. And it's balun, balanced, B-A-L, the first 3 letters, unbalanced, the first 2 letters, un. It is not balum. I want to tear somebody's throat out on this receiver when I hear him talk about balums. Balums, my balum's working. No, your balum doesn't even happen. It's balun. Hey.
Come and see us and talk to us on 3847.
Well, we're going to turn our receivers on, and I don't have a balun. I don't have an unbalun. I have a balanced antenna. And so it's broadband, and we'll be on 14268 or I heard some words. Gordo, are you aware? Is it 7268 or 73 tonight? Where's Mike?
I will turn on the radio. I believe it's 7268 where he normally is, and I'll check it out and let you know in just a minute.
Okay, and Bill is already standing by on 14268. And boy, they do such great jobs keeping those nets together afterwards. So you want to join us all there because most of us are there. And we'll look for you there. Better than that, we'll look for you next week right here on Ham Nation. So tell your friends, tune into some of the replays, and we'll be brought to you again by ICOM, and we really appreciate their participation. And we appreciate you watching and sharing the news with all of your ham radio buddies. Ham Nation, it's a wonderful thing that Leo Laporte has done for ham radio to give us all of this attention, meaning, of course, production crew, Alex, Karsten, John, all of them back in Petaluma, and all of the wonderful people that keep this show going by watching and sharing. So thanks a lot, everybody. 7-3, and we'll see you after a bit on 40 or 20 meters. This is K9EID. Bye-bye for now.